Hi guys, I showed you I was given this at the recycling centre. It was all crushed up and asked how much they wanted for it, and they just told me to take it away. Since then I have actually tried charging it, and that was a bad move. It tried to melt my charger, so that's a shame. That's probably killed that. So there's obviously something wrong with it internally, so that's an excuse to take it apart. It's basically a helicopter, self-contained, and it's got an infrared receiver unit there, infrared sender unit, and it uses it as a distance sensor, so it can tell how far off the ground it is, or if you put your hand underneath it, if it detects something underneath, it increases the speed and it lifts up. It's very similar to that Science Museum space ball I was playing with a while back. We've got a LiPo battery there, an electric motor. I should think all of this will pull off with a bit of effort. Yeah. Loads of little screws. This little screwdriver set used to be my father's, so they're probably 50 or 60 years old. Right, we can see it a bit easier now. So we've got the controller board there, which must have the charger circuit on it as well. Got an LED, and then we got 2 red and 2 black coming up to here, and another load of screws to undo. Top of this blue section is a little gearbox. I might be able to use this for something completely different. Yeah, so that's our motor and gearbox, and that's our battery pack, LiPo, 3.7 volt, 180 milliamp hour. So I suppose the big question is, why did it burn out my charger? I think I might have to go close up, but that looks to me like we might have had a full short across there. I'm about as close in as I can get, and that looks to me like that insulation was melted through and was in contact, so we had the negative and positive directly in contact. So that may have been what burnt out my charger, or it may have just been the battery is no good and these wires overheated anyway. I've zoomed in a bit further and we can see this chip has overheated. So we got the insulation melted, and then the chip's overheated. No easy way of checking which way round that happened, whether it was the chip overheating first or the insulation melting, but that looks like that's what our problem is. And I don't think we're going to be able to read any numbers off that chip to work out what it is, although I'm guessing that could well be the LiPo charging circuit. That would make sense. I think what I'll do now is I'll desolder those wires so we can just see whether we've actually got a decent motor and see whether the LiPo's any good. Because clearly, without replacing that chip, the circuit board's not going to be much use to us. Looking at the wires up at this end, the wires going to the motor are a little bit thinner than the wires go into the battery. So back down at this end, we can see that's the battery wire, the red is common, and then that's the motor wire there. Well, we've got nothing showing up on the LiPo battery, which is probably good. So I'll just put some power onto the motor and see if we get anything out of that. Got one of my handy little battery packs here, came out of one of the radio controlled cars. I've rigged it up so I can use either 3 AA batteries or 6 AA batteries. So using these 2 wires gives me 3 AA batteries. Which is giving me 3.8 volts, which is about right compared to a LiPo. So let's see if we can rig this up. Oh yeah, so we've got a good motor. Good motor and gearbox, but it looks like we've got a Duff LiPo battery, which is not surprising. It does look a little bit puffy in there. Those wires are tight. Yeah, we're getting nothing out of the LiPo at all. .7 volts, 180 milliamp hours. So I could replace it, but there's not much point if that chip's burnt out. Assuming that that's the chip that does the charging. Although we could bypass it, I suppose. I could have a separate supply just to charge the battery. That'll be a future project. That's as far as we can go at the moment, just taking it apart. Here's an idea. Got one of my supercapacitors here. 2.7 volts, 5 farads. Give it a bit of a charge. That's probably long enough. Wonder how high that would go. I could just make one that goes straight up in the air and hope it comes down again.